Is it fair to say, and I feel like I had asked Mike this the other day, is it fair to say the offensive line has surpassed your expectation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Didn't I pick that as my biggest surprise of the year? Is that
you
how
did
good they are?
For the Cowboys. Absolutely, that is true. Do you think that they can keep it up? Because you're going to need them to continue to play at this level as obviously we hope Dak gets better and better.
All right, so you're going to hate my answer here. But yes, because we're getting back a key piece for the meat of the schedule. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but if there's an injury on the offensive line, don't you feel better if you have Tyron Smith back and potentially partially healthy?
And did you think it was kind of an interesting note there is, and we can double check with him tomorrow, it seemed like Mickey kind of insinuating don't count on seeing Tyron Smith, which I get more, or James Washington until December because of the lack of practice time that you see in the condensed scheduling.
Wouldn't it it would make no sense to just throw some guys out on the football field as soon as they're ready to he's ready to go. No, I mean, what has he done to work his way into that shape? It's like saying, hey, Mike, you're going to go out and you're going to start opening day. Sorry, no spring training. Good luck, man. And so that would probably hurt his arm pretty significantly as you kind of have to work your way into shape for those things, unless you're just always in shape. Stay ready so you never have to get ready, I guess. But they aren't. That
would still leave you the last 6 games, which I can see how you could argue that would be the meat of the season. All right. So
that's the fourth quarter right there.
Tyler, that is true. The Tyler Smith, we feel good about his ability to hold it down, whether or not he moves.
They nailed that pick. I know everybody was like, what are we doing here? A lot of people were very confused by the pick because they hadn't heard the name. They were very surprised by it. But if you were listening to Love of the Star, you did. Yeah, dude, they nailed that pick with Tyler Smith. And they were looking at him, Kevin, as a guard to transition to tackle. Now you don't have to worry about your tackle position for however long he's here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This one's a little more difficult because I want to say Connor McGovern, but so then you'd move Tyler Smith there, even though Steven's like, well, we haven't really talked about that just quite yet.
Let's let it play out.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about that either.
Okay.
Because I don't know. And I think Steven's saying that, and I think I was watching Dave Chappelle on with Joe Rogan on TikTok the other day.
You're going to cause a writer's strike.
Am I? And I just thought it was really funny when he was like, so Dave, what are you going to do next? And he was like, I don't want to say it because then people will hold me to it. It was like one of those. So Steven doesn't want to say, hey, this is our plan, because then he'll be held to it if it doesn't work out that way. Let's say an injury happens elsewhere. And you got other things you can figure out there.
Well, I appreciate that you kept doing your job despite Dave Chappelle's name coming up. Some whiny Saturday Night Live writers are like, we're not going to do this show if he's going to host. Well, guess what?
He brought that show like its biggest ratings ever. Okay, I got it.
They'll probably be just fine.
It'll be okay.
All right, Tyler Biadasz. I feel like with Biadasz, we haven't talked about him a lot, which feels like a good thing. I think he is. I'm not saying he's been great or anything like that, but he's been fine.
He's been fine. The strength of your offensive line is the right side. And if you're looking at what Gelkin and John Oney and those guys are doing, the Terrence Steele, Zach Martin combo block is the dominant force of the NFL right now.
Which is weird because I don't feel like this has been the best season for Zach Martin. Not a bad season, but perhaps not his best season.
The meme or the GIF where the guy opens his eyes what did you just say? That's what I just did openly in America.
Yeah, I think he's great. He will go to the Hall of Fame.
What makes you think this? What makes you say these words? I want to say that they're very naughty words, but I just don't know how to say that the right way.
I don't want to say
sexy? No, not
words.
Sexy naughty, bad. This is bad.
I just look back at games like the Rams game that
you've been a bad boy.
Not like that.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead and jot that one down, Joey.
I just look back at games like the Rams game when you're like, yeah, no, this is fine, but usually every game he just chomps out the person or persons in front of him, and that I did not feel like that was the case with the Rams game. So he's held to an incredibly high standard, and I think by his standards, this has not been his best season.
He's still maybe the best offensive lineman in the game. He's the best guard for sure.
I think thus far this season, he has not been the best offensive lineman in the game. I'm just saying.
Have you watched every play?
He's still, yes.
Have you watched every single snap of his career, Kevin?
Probably, actually.
Yeah, we probably have.
And so that's the thing. He's still great. I'm not saying he's not great. I just feel like by his unbelievable standards, perhaps it's been slightly lower. However, yes, I was also reading that. It was a really cool article from Michael Gelkin when he talked about the Zach Martin saw the play and he was like, run it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dalton Schultz is talking about they love building that play, and it's, you can move it off to the right side when you're running the ball, and Terrence Steele and Martin combined for the double team block, and that's how Tony Pollard got the 7-yard run, which if you're racking up runs like that consistently, it could be a great day.
So, and we're going to get into this a little more in the 1 o'clock, Kevin, as we talk about Jimmy Johnson and what he was kind of discussing there and running the ball and how effective it is for the Cowboys and why they can use it that way. And I mean, they are confident that they can go to that right side whenever they want and get what they want out of it. And that's something, Kevin, that not every NFL team can say.
For sure. But then we would agree, Terrence Steele, we feel pretty good about him.
Pretty happy with that, dude. Like a lot of people, except for Mike and myself, were making jokes about him.
Well, I didn't.
I supported him last
training
year.
Camp, I thought it was pretty bad looking, but we found out that Sam Williams and Torrance Armstrong and some of the guys that he was getting beat by are beating other tackles in the NFL. And I think he's done a good job. And the Cowboys are going to have to give him a pretty good contract, because I'm just guessing the teams, like, I can't remember all the teams, but teams that have rookie quarterbacks that have $100 million in cap space, I believe one of them being the Chicago Bears. Can't you think that the Chicago Bears, with their offensive line situation, might look at Terrence Steele, his age, and go, dude, we're willing to give you 6 years and $100 million.
Absolutely.
I mean,
now what do the Cowboys do?
Isn't that pretty much like why the Bengals were so, and I know it's a different situation, but the Bengals were like, oh my God, we're the smartest team in the world. We just got Lyle Collins. Yeah. And then you watch him and you're like, oh, that's why he was so readily
But I don't
available.
think that's going to go that bad for if the Bears were to do that. Terrence Steele looks good. Now, maybe the coaching is helping. Like, maybe there's a lot of what the Cowboys are doing internally that's helping there.
And that's one of the things, if they're like, hey, we will pay Terrence Steele as a premium right tackle, then I'm like, well, I appreciate all the service that you have brought to the table, but I'm probably okay with letting you move on down the road. And one of the reasons I was intrigued by all of this as well, if I would have told you going into the season that at this point in the year, where do you think the Cowboys would have been in sacks given up? So, like, we go back to, like you said, training camp. Where do you think the Cowboys would have been in sacks allowed?
Probably below average, as in they would be giving up, not the most. Obviously, there's teams with a lot worse offensive line, but I thought if you'd have said, oh, they're giving up the 10th to 15th most sacks per game, I'd have said, yeah, that feels about right after watching them in training camp.
Do you think that's fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've made reference to most of these offensive lines today. The worst offensive line, although there are multiple things that go into it, including pressures as well, but I have a stat about that. The 3 worst offensive lines in terms of giving up sacks: Indianapolis Colts 35, the Bears 33, the Bengals 32. The Dallas Cowboys have given up 12 sacks this year. That is 3rd best in the NFL. And if you're like, yeah, that's fine, I care about pressures. That's the statistic I care about. All right, fair enough. Dallas Cowboys offensive line has given up 78 pressures this year, which is also 3rd fewest in the NFL, behind the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So their offensive line has been clicking across the board in terms of keeping your quarterback potentially upright. And I know part of that had to do with, we felt like Cooper Rush was really zipping the ball out of there quickly. And so we'll see how
that had definitely a lot to do with the fact that he was like first read throw, he was trusting the read on the first, as soon as he got the ball in his hands. I am kind of curious on that part of, like, can Dak keep that tempo up. And whenever the Cowboys, like, he got hurt because the offensive line was letting people get around him, you know, like his finger got broke because there were people near him. So can they keep people away from him so that he can do his job?